It just doesn't stop. It keeps getting more ridiculous day by day as, yes, we have another Kevin Durant report to the San Antonio Spurs, but this one comes in the backing of some sham charania stuff from the trade deadline. We have to dive into the new report and exactly what's going on. Plus, we got to talk about one other name. It's not Kevin Durant, but it's another very interesting star name that has been floating around in the Spurs sphere recently, and he actually could be quite a good fit. We got to talk about all of that coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest, but real quick before we get into the video, guys, still 60% of you watching this video are not subscribed. We're less than 200 subs away from 6,000. We'd love to hit 6,000 before the end of the season, so if you enjoy the content we have here at Spurs Digest, you like to watch all of our videos, hit the free button down below, and hey, double check, even if you think you are, sometimes you're not subscribed, but we're going to dive right in to this Kevin Durant stuff, and look, I know we're tired of Kevin Durant. I know I talked about him yesterday, but you're going to want to see this because I still think it's a very important thing to talk about. So this comes from Legion Hoops. The Suns and Kevin Durant are expected to work on a trade out of Phoenix this summer. Now, there have been rumors floating that this was the case. There's been some people saying, oh, Durant said, yes, I did ask for a trade. Some people say he didn't ask for a trade. As the days go by, the closer we get to the summer, the more reports are coming out seemingly stating that they're going to work on this trade. Things are just not going as planned. And again, with this recent ankle injury, we don't know what the future looks like for Kevin Durant. But as per Sham Charania, KD had interest in the Knicks, Timberwolves, Rockets, Spurs, and Heat at this past trade deadline. And obviously, the key name there is the Spurs. And if you guys don't want to talk about Kevin Durant anymore, I do have a very interesting segment that you can skip to with a timestamp, but I think you want to stick around because the more we hear about this, the more we hear the Spurs name and rumors, the more I think that there actually is some smoke to this because, you know, the Spurs are the fun team, first of all, now to put their name in. And yes, it does generate a lot of clicks, especially from our international market. Bonjour to all our French viewers out there. But Kevin Durant to the Spurs just makes sense from Kevin Durant's perspective. And again, from the Spurs perspective, you guys know my opinion. I know your guys' opinion. Most of you say Kevin Durant would be a waste of assets to try and trade to get him because it would be a very much a win-now move, especially since we're going to extend Fox for 4 years into the future. We have Wemby for so long. Giving up assets that could build alongside them for a win-now move in Kevin Durant doesn't make a lot of sense to most of us. And I'm on board with that, depending on the trade package. Because again, if it's not a crazy trade package, I'm still not necessarily opposed to making a trade for Kevin Durant. But it depends on what the Spurs want to do. Historically, we haven't really seen the Spurs name appear in a lot of free agent or trade stuff. Again, now that they're a popular team with Wembanyama, a lot of people outside the Spurs sphere are starting to tune into our team, which is kind of a nice thing, but also a very different thing. So we're seeing the Spurs team name pop up in a lot of rumors. So all in all, the fact that Shams did say that the Spurs, or KD had interest in the Spurs at the deadline, does add some credence to this. And again, the further we go along, the further it seems like the Spurs will be in the rumors just to the last minute. But, you know, I want to hear your guys' thoughts again. And I know you're going to say, oh, look, I already said no to Kevin Durant. But let's just think about this. Is there a trade package? This is what I want you to answer. Is there a trade package that you would give up for Kevin Durant? Because objectively, if he was a free agent and we could sign him for 1 year without having to give up much, that I would do, right? Like I would do it at a decent price tag. I know he comes at a $56 million price tag, but that's kind of the question I've started to ask myself. At what point is the assets that we'd have to give up to get KD actually worth a 1 year run with him? Because not only would he help the team get better, he can help develop some of your young guys, depending who sticks around. You gain a bunch of experience, championship caliber guy. So that's kind of my question. Like, if it does involve Vassell and like 3-4 first round picks, then no, like I'm not ready to do that. And I know maybe some other teams would be ready to do that, but I know that you guys have a number in your head, or yeah, not even a number, but like some picks, some players that you'd be willing to give up for KD. And I'd love to hear what they are down below, because in my opinion, it probably shouldn't be just nothing, but he's not the only guy that we've seen in their names swirling around the Spurs, because we need talent over the next number of years, and talent is hard to come by, especially in terms of trades. Free agency, it's more likely, but even then, it's like a lot of the time you're overpaying for guys who are a little further along in their prime than the Spurs would like. There is one guy that was circulating in Spurs rumors last summer, but then he signed an extension, and that player is Lauri Markkanen. Now, there's an article that I'll link down below that actually brings him up as a blockbuster trade target for the Spurs. And again, I know you guys are probably saying this is crazy. That was my first reaction too. But the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to come around on this idea. And look, Just hear me out, all right? I promise. Just hear me out. I'm not crazy. I don't think. No, maybe I am. I don't care. I like the idea of big trades. And look, feel free to completely disagree with me down in the comments. I know a lot of you like to do that. Hey, I'm totally cool with it. I can take it. But Lauri Markkanen, they say, here we go again. Up until he signed a contract extension in August, Markkanen was the name to watch in Spurs trade rumors. He absolutely was. The sweet shooting power forward, the Finnish guy, would open up the offense for Wembanyama and give De'Aaron Fox an elite threat to kick the ball out to. That's a very good point. And looking to Lauri Markkanen, his numbers have dropped significantly this year. But we can't deny that Utah is not in the best place right now. Their team is just, like, they have some intriguing young players, but the team is just not what it was. And right now, Lauri Markkanen, like, going from an all-star 25 plus points per game to this, now age 27, he should theoretically be right in the heart of his prime. Seeing a big downtick in numbers to 19 points a game is worrisome. And only 35% from three, 42% from the field, there's no doubt there's a bit of a worry. And again, the contract is a big thing as well. And if we look at the contract, $46 million next year, $46 million the year after that, $49 million the year after that, $53 after that. We're talking 4 years. We're talking almost $200 million total dollars. An average cap hit right there of about $48 million. I think something like that. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the average is, but it comes out to around that. He's hovering around 30% of the cap. But with the cap going up by 10% and the style of play that he brings, we're just learning that Lauri Markkanen can't be that guy. That's what I'm learning from this experiment. He can't be that guy, especially not over a sustained period. But that's okay, because in San Antonio, he doesn't need to be that guy. Now, then the question becomes, are you really willing to pay $45-50 million for a guy who's not that guy for your team, right? Then you're asking, are you willing to pay $45-50 million for a guy that's probably going to be your third offensive option, but probably the best third offensive option in the league? I say, look at the Boston Celtics, and you got a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, and he's maybe not making. I don't think he's making $50 million a year. I don't believe, though. To be honest, I don't really know. I think he's definitely about 40. But regardless, Kristaps is like an incredible third option. Now that team has a ton of other options as well. As we know, Derek White is balling out over there this season. They got Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, blah blah blah. But again, what makes the Celtics so good is that depth of options. Any given night, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys that could go off for 25, 30 points. And that has proven to be so successful for the Boston Celtics. It's a model that works. These super teams with a bunch of guys who are making a ton of money that can all actually complement each other, that can all go off on a given night. And in my eyes, De'Aaron Fox with Lauri Markkanen, with Victor Wembanyama actually makes sense in terms of fit. Financially, it's extremely difficult because, again, you're eventually going to have to make room for Stephon Castle's extension when that's coming up. You do have Vassell on the books, $27 million a year. You imagine he'd be gone in this kind of deal to help balance the money out. You have Sochan's extension coming up, whether this summer or maybe into next season. There's a lot of financial maneuvering you'd have to do to make this work. I know it sounds crazy, but to me, putting Markkanen in the ideal situation for him, which in my mind is in San Antonio with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama. Like, imagine he wasn't making that amount of money, right? Imagine Lauri Markkanen was a $30 million player. I'd be like, give me him right away, right? Obviously, that's a big what if scenario, and that kind of, he's just not that. He's making close to $50 million over the next 4 years. But in the right situation, like you would be in San Antonio, with the gravity of Wembanyama, with Fox's drive and kick game, his gravity when he's slashing to the rim, Wemby's passing ability and his ability to just bring in players when he's posting up, whatever, having a stretch four that is not horrible on the defensive end as well, that is 7 feet tall, that's mobile, that has a proven track record of being a go-to option. Like, to me, it just kind of makes sense. Again, it's a lot of money, and it'd be a massive risk. And maybe you guys are just really not on board with this, but maybe I've made a case for you. Like, look, I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. I'm not saying this is going to happen. What I am saying is it's a name that I'm kind of looking into a little more now that I've tried to take a step back and analyze the situation. I still don't think it's likely, but I'd love to know what you guys have to say down below. Let me know. Look, we're getting to the end of the season here, the dead time of the year. The Spurs are heading towards the draft lottery. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming up on the lotto as the season comes to a close, but these offseason rumors, oh, they feed me, man. I'm a fiend for this drama, and I hope you guys are too. But that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on everything down below. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.